Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
Now this episode is going to be bold and straightforward. Today you're going to decide what kind of couple you're going to be. This is about the resistant and resilient mindset.
Yeah, so today is going to be really, like you said, motivational, inspirational, some perspective. A lot of our podcast episodes give you how-tos and skills and very tool-based. Today is going to be about the way you think, the way that you see challenges within your relationship. Because, sorry if it's news to you, but you're not going to reach some pinnacle, no matter how much you listen to our podcast, do our courses, even if you did private coaching with us. You will still have road bumps. And we were messaging with a few clients last week, as we do every single week, but in particular, this stood out because several of them had a couple bigger upsets and they were making progress. They both, all of these couples were saying like, oh man, it feels like we've really turned a corner and it feels like night and day, a total difference in our relationship. And then this big challenge happened for them. And we said, great, this is life. This is what's going to happen. I know that might sound odd from relationship coaches, but we're like, this is where resilience is actually created because you aren't going to reach this state of perfection. And I know that for us, kind of shifting gears a little bit with parenting our daughter, we don't just want her to be smart or intelligent or kind or thoughtful. We want her to be resilient. We want her to not have life be smooth sailing and never encounter challenges and, never face uncomfortable circumstances or feelings. We want her to be able to face those things and be resilient and get back up when challenges occur. So resilience for me is an important word. I feel like I developed a lot of resilience because I did have some challenges growing up. Of course, that's all relative to everyone's life, but I feel like I am resilient. I can get back up when challenges occur. And then in the context of our marriage, I feel you and I can bounce back fast, right? We can bounce back relatively quickly, even when we encounter hard things. So I'm just passionate about this word, resilience.
Yes, and building resilience towards being able to take action in the face of challenges is definitely a trait to develop as you go out and face life on your own. What we want to talk about today, though, is slightly different because it's an attitude. It is a mindset. And being resilient towards committing to the right attitude and the right mindset for love, support, and repair is much different than I can be resilient, meaning I can continue to trudge forward and take action in the face of a challenge and have a pretty poor attitude as I go.
Yeah.
So we want to do both. We want to be able to move forward and take the right actions. And when it comes to your relationship, your marriage, it also does matter the attitude and the mindset that you have. So the place that I can really think about this is a resilience towards repairing. And that's what a lot of the calls that we did this past week really signaled to me is that do couples have the mindset to be resilient towards repair, or are you resistant to going to your partner? And if you know our 5 R's and our repair process, you're resistant to go to them and share where you have responsibility or hear the impact that your actions have had on the other.
I actually love that you brought that up because some people might think they are resilient because they can just survive, right? Like they can kind of bunker down and just keep going on with life, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, working, but they're not really interacting with their partner. There's not love and connection between them. There's an elephant in the room.
Don't say a lot.
Exactly. And so you can think that you're resilient because you're just going on with life and you haven't chosen to, kick them to the curb and divorce them. No, we're not talking about resilience as survival. We're talking about resilience in the
towards
fact
love, which when you put those two
Yes.
together, it's like, well, wait a second. That's a different attitude.
it's a commitment to return to love. Boom. Okay, here we go.
I think that was a book title.
I know, but I'm going to claim it a new, and it's a new book title because I added the word
Not resilience, but Return to Love, I think, was by Marianne Williamson.
Yes, okay, but I'm going to add in a word that true resilience isn't about survival. Resilience is about your commitment to return to love. And we're going to break down some differences between resistance and resilience so that you can honestly have a conversation with yourself and go, where do I need to actually step up in my mindset? Because this is a mindset principle. And before we go into those, because this is coming up really soon, we have to tell you before we even dive in, because we want you to be able to register. We are doing a live web class, which we have not done in months. This isn't something we do all the time, probably just a handful of times per year. And this topic is something we haven't specifically addressed on our web classes, which we're going to talk about getting to the root cause of conflicts. And we're going to break down the most common sources of conflict that we find. Because what we've realized with couples is there's learning how to repair, which is, of course, where a Making Up and Moving Forward guide comes in, and we have other webinars about repair. But what we find is that in not only the repair process, but also in the way of being able to prevent conflicts, couples aren't great at really getting to the root cause of why it's happening. They'll blame it on things like, well, I was tired, or you were critical, or it was your tone, or you triggered me. And we need to go deeper than that. And so we are masterful, just to kind of be humbly bragging there, at really painting the picture for what are the root causes so that you can address them, so that you can resolve them. So you're going to want to register because it's coming up. It's live. It's going to be March 30th, 2023. And the link will also be in the show notes, but it's onlinecouplesworkshops.com/root cause. And I know there's a lot of S's in there, so that's where the link in the show notes might help, but onlinecouplesworkshops.com/root cause. Just go get registered because learning how to get to the root cause is going to help you prevent conflicts, help create more harmony and love and connection in your relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into the resistant and resilient mindset. And I want to paint the picture of what that honestly looks like. Because, like, for example, when we did the podcast a few weeks ago about the 5 elements of love, listeners, if you remember that, hopefully a lot of you following along each week, the one element was commitment. And this resilience to return to love, as you've now very eloquently put it, it is very much that commitment. Now, we have said this on a few calls recently, and partners will say, well, I'm a 10 out of 10 committed. And it's like, it's not the same as actually having a resilient mindset. And that's the commitment we're really talking about. Commitment like, oh, I'm here to provide for you and to support you and like be around.
I won't leave you.
Yeah, like, I mean, from a man's perspective, I suppose it's like provide financial security or just provide safety, not leave you. But when it comes to getting upset, when it comes to your partner doing something that triggers you, that has you feel frustrated, and you then watch how people that say they're really committed, but then just abandon their partner,
Shut down,
like leave the house, be silent, give the silent treatment, sit on the couch in the evening, not say anything, be apart, not engage, not make any repair attempts. Well, that's not commitment. That's like zero.
Say it.
Because what we're talking about is a commitment to be resilient. And resilient, well, let's talk about resistant.
Yeah.
Like, so when that's happening, you're just unwilling. The biggest thing that I feel, let me paint this other picture too, because you are going to feel resistance. You're going to get upset. You're going to have conflicts. You're going to have arguments. And so you will have a period of time, which might be related to the argument hangover, that you're resistant to go and repair.
Yeah.
You're resistant. You're unwilling to share with your partner where you have responsibility or to hear how you impacted them. Or overall, let's say you're not even in a conflict, but your partner makes requests of you. Hey, seasons change. We now have a child. We are in a different season of life. I would like you to be open to adjusting your role, a behavior that's impacting me because it's just not serving where we want to go. And you're like, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm doing things my way. This is who I am. Accept me the way I am. That's a resistant partner. That's not resilient. That's being too rigid in not being willing to change your behavior around roles and responsibilities or say emotional triggers or just your own preferences to better suit the relationship.
I think a great word you used was rigidity, right? It's like, it's not realizing that we need to adjust throughout life. And you'll hear that as we go into the resilience mindset, is like the ability to adjust. And so if you're resistant, there's like a resistance to, don't tell me I need to change, or I'm as good as I can be, not taking any feedback, right? I can't take any feedback for how I can be. I'm doing the best I can when maybe you're not, like, just to be honest, like sometimes there might be moments you say that I'm doing the best I can, meaning, you're working as hard as you can and you're cleaning as hard as you can and you're, trying to pay bills and you're trying to take care of the kids. You might be doing the best you can, but are you being the best that you can?
Well, it just reminded me of something too, actually. So wouldn't have thought Elon Musk would have come in here to the podcast, but he says that overall we optimize so many things that just don't even need to exist. So maybe this transitions us, but if you're so resistant to just doing things the same way because you've always done them, then you're really going to be missing the mark, because a part of relationship to either repair or create a new season or move towards a bigger vision, whatever it might be, is that you have to be willing to, because you say you're doing the best you can, but I can be doing the best I can on something that's meaningless. Like, really?
Yes.
Like, I could be doing my maximum effort on something that makes no difference.
Or it does make a difference, but not relative to having a good relationship, right?
Yeah, I was thinking in general, like I could be working on, like, I don't know, a railroad, and I could be doing my maximum. And it's like, well, they have, like levitating trains now. Like, do I really need to be working on like a busted railroad? Maybe that analogy is holding true.
That one wasn't the best, but
you could be doing the very best you can, but if you're resistant, you're not looking at, is this what I need to be doing for the betterment of the relationship and what my partner needs? Or am I resistant because I'm just doing what I've always done for no other reason than I'm just not willing to look to see if this is useful or not?
I'm feeling fired up by that. Not the train analogy. That wasn't fantastic. You're normally better with the analogies, but more so what you're talking about. And I want to actually flip the script on something. So some people will say in our sessions and workshops, etc., I am and my partner is, we're hard-headed. We're both strong in our opinions. And I want to kind of flip the script, actually. And I'm not at all trying to attack your guys' character and things like that, but consider that being hard-headed, being so strong in your opinions that you can't be flexible is not a strength. That's a weakness. Because truly being a strong, agile person to be in a relationship with requires some degree of humility. So I think, again, it's like flipping the script that, being hard-headed, being so strong-headed and like it has to be this way and no, you can't give me that feedback isn't a strength. It's a weakness. So I know I'm not at all trying to point out, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but I'm wanting to level us up. And so does that transition us to then resilience, you think?
I guess I just wanted to be honest, a place that I've found myself.
Okay.
We've had a couple of things come up. And again, I am resistant at times for a few minutes.
Yes.
But overall, I am resilient, because the resilient is, here I am sitting on the couch. I feel like you said something that offended me or it got a little bit escalated. And then my resistance shows up as like, I'm going to walk around the kitchen and get my food or like do what I need to. It's easy for us to take care of this guy no matter what. But it's like my resistance is, I'm not going to be playful with you. Like, I'm not going to interact with you. I'm not going to repair with you. And I mean, that's going on for a few minutes. Right. So I noticed that. And then pretty fast, I realized like, wow, I'm really being resistant. I'm resistant to coming back and having the conversation with you, taking my responsibility for where I can, hearing you out. And go ahead.
No,
So
I'm jamming on that, and actually that's good to bring up because I certainly have my moments of being resistant.
I was just trying to lead you there.
Right before this
Just
podcast episode could have been resistant. We just had this little moment of tension. Didn't become like a giant, disagreement, but just this moment of tension. We were both a little bit irritated, and there was a moment where I was like, oh, I could really shut down right now. And I could just kind of get into this hopeless mindset and kind of just withdraw. And I have this moment of asking myself, how much life am I willing to lose to something that is relatively going to be small? And I think that this leads to a good segue. The resistance continues when you're so focused on the small thing and you don't zoom out to the bigger picture. And that's where resilience kicks in, which is, okay, Jocelyn, it's like the self-talk. I know in this moment it feels aggravating. You want to shut down. You want to withdraw. You want to make him wrong. But in the big scheme of life, this is not even going to be something you remember. So can you just let it go? Can you bounce back? Can you move on to life? Because who knows how many days we have left, right?
Yeah, one other thing I want to add from a personal perspective, because I've seen these other places of resistance. And it's just, I think it's for a lot of men, we have certain preferences of how we want things to go. And a lot of times it's around physical working out, physical wellness. So let's say, for example, I gotten into a routine of going to the gym 4 times a week, which I was, right? Then we have a baby come along, and it's, if I'm just unwilling to adjust something like that, and then I start to fight you on it. You're like, well, I need help with Sky. Like, we have a newborn. And if I'm like, well, I'm going to the gym because, I've always done it that way and it worked, but things do change. So if I'm resistant to making a change to the preferences in my own routine, then I'm really not staying flexible and I'm not staying with what's going to best serve us going forward. And maybe for some, other men, if you're going to a job, let's say, and you're used to coming back home, you have a routine, maybe you do something to de-stress, maybe you have dinner immediately, maybe you do your workout then. And let's just use parenting still as an example. You now have children. If you are so rigid and stuck on, well, I'm just going to do it this way. I'm coming home from work and I'm just working out.
Or I'm going to watch TV.
Whatever it is. Well, you just got to deal with it. Like, that's not a resilient mentality towards the relationship. So I just wanted to add that piece in there because it's like I'm trying to look at all these places for myself. Yeah, it has a lot to do with changes in identity. And maybe that's part of what the resistance is because I know myself to be this type of person. So I'm resistant to adjusting any behaviors because it's going to change how I see myself. But sometimes you're going to have to because life is going to be adjusting or life is going to be changing. So you have to adjust. Otherwise you stay rigid and it's a false sense of security really because things are just moving past you.
Yes. Well, and to now transition really, and you started to speak to it, but the resilience, you talked about adjust. I think another great word is to be adaptable.
Oh yeah, great.
Right?
Word.
That a resilient person can adapt. Okay, we're in this season of life and how can I adjust? Not in just the things I'm doing, but in how I am being with them. And this made me think of another distinction. With a resilient mindset, we're not focused on being right. We're focused on what's effective. Notice the difference there, right? A resistant mindset will be focused on what is, I want to be right. No, I am right about this. This is my perspective and really fixated on that versus resilient is on effectiveness. Okay, if we want to have a happy, healthy home environment that is connected and joyful, etc., okay, are my actions, my behaviors, my attitudes effective in creating that instead of being justified for some reason? So I think adaptability and focused on effectiveness as opposed to being right is a resilience aspect. Also, the ability to let go of past hurts, right? And of course, using our repair process. So if you haven't already learned that, like, you got to get our Making Up and Moving Forward guide. Like, hundreds of you have been getting that every week, and it's just a must to have because you need to know how to repair. You need to be able to know how to put things in the past, and you can get that Making Up and Moving Forward guide linked in our show notes as well, and read that before the web class, by the way. But being able to let go of past hurts, to not hold on and forgive. And a client brought this word up in a session today, to have grace, right? To be able to have grace for that your partner is going to be imperfect, you're going to be imperfect, and to just not expect them to always be their best. Definitely invite them to be the best they can each day, but to know that we're going to be imperfect. How else would you describe resilience?
Well, we have said it, I think, on some other podcasts, or maybe it was coaching. It's that you have the mindset to not only bring to mind what your commitment is, but then you act more from your commitment to the relationship than how you feel in those moments. I think if there was any sort of summary, it would be resistant people are stuck with acting one way based on how they feel.
Frustrated.
I feel this way, I'm just going to act this way. I feel this way, so I'm just going to stick to this, and I'm not going to move from it. So resilience is you actually act most likely in a new way that comes from you creating the mindset of commitment. And then you're not so swayed by the feelings that come up. And I think that allows for you to be more overall resilient to challenges and conflicts because you're not just getting taken out because of you feel hurt.
Yeah, exactly. I also think of with resilience, it's the ability to engage in open, honest conversation, even if that's uncomfortable. Right? It's the ability to be with the discomfort instead of just, I'm going to bounce, the moment that there's any tension, any bit of, you're feeling emotional and this is uncomfortable, so I'm out. So it's resilience. I can stay in this. I want to stay.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes, stay.
Engage, because you said engage, but it made me think, well, engage and then stay.
Yes, stay in it till you get to the breakthrough. And again, just to kind of make sure you go register, part of being able to do that is to be able to sit in the conversation and get to the root cause enough. So just another reason to attend the web class so that you're able to kind of complete the conversation, get to the root cause, resolve it. And I just would say overall, Erin, for me, resilience is just the ability to bounce back, right? To get back up, to not be taken out by small things, to think about the bigger perspective, to anchor to your commitment exactly, and just continue to be better today than you were yesterday. Not let small circumstances, temporary feelings. You have to remember that feelings are temporary. You're frustrated now, but for how long? It could be 5 minutes. Set a timer. Okay, I'm going to be pissed at my partner for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to be resilient and I'm going to be committed to having a great family night together.
I'm going to be resistant for 5 minutes, and then I'll be resilient.
Exactly. I mean, you could do that. Let yourself feel as mad as you need to for that period of time and then bounce back because, again, I think just from a bigger life perspective, we don't know how many days we're going to have. And so I just really want my life to be filled with as many moments being present. And yes, we have tension. Yes, we have arguments and all those things. But again, you hear us say this time and time again, we don't let that last long. We don't want to lose out on precious life. So I think that summarizes the difference between resistance and resilience in your mindset in your marriage. Your mindset is important, right? We give you a lot of how-tos, a lot of tools and skills, but you need to have the mindset of resilience to be able to bounce back when challenges occur. So we hope this episode gave you some inspiration, motivation, perspective. Make sure you're registered for that live web class on March 30th. Again, the link is in the show notes. And also get our Making Up and Moving Forward guide. Also, if this episode benefits you and you enjoy this, can you give our show 5 stars on whichever platform you're listening on? That's a small way that makes a big difference for us to say thank you and give us, more motivation to continue because we love seeing those ratings. So we love you guys and we will talk to you on the next episode.